So streaming, binging on streaming TV has become something almost of a point of pride at this point. Everybody's talking about, what they've seen, where they watched it, but reaching this targeted, highly engaged audience is a little bit challenging, especially for those with an old school frame of mind. So today we're going to talk a little bit about how to reach this audience. We're going to talk about targeting. We're going to talk a little bit about measurement, and we're going to get into some of the best practices, but we're also going to talk about the realities and some of the pitfalls. And I've got a great panel with me here today. I've got Harry Harkis, who's Managing Director of Finecast UK. And Harry, if you want to just give us a sentence on who Finecast is and what you do.
Sure. Hi, Ken, and hi, everyone. Yeah, so Finecast is an addressable TV media company. We were born 3 years ago within Group M, so we're part of WPP, and we provide Group M clients and non-Group M clients with kind of a one-stop shop or single point of access to the modern day TV ecosystem within the UK, US, Canada, Germany, and a number of other countries that we're moving into this year.
Great. We have Marianne Halford, who's a partner at Altman Solon. Can you, first of all,
Sure. Altman Solon is the world's largest TMT only strategy consulting firm. It has offices in the US and throughout Europe. The firm is actually a representative of the merger between Altman Valandry and the well-regarded European strategy consulting firm Solon. And I am focused on the media sector on a transatlantic basis.
Thank you. And last but not least, we have Mike Shaw, who's Director of International Sales at Roku, which needs no introduction.
Hey, Ken.
Welcome, Mike. So let's jump right into it. So we're waiting into upfront season soon. And, there was always this kind of old school way of doing things. And obviously, a few things have changed, right, in this last year, one of which is TV viewing habits. So tell us a little bit about, how do you reach the audience today? And we'll dig into a lot more of the minutia throughout the session. But what's some of the major differences between sort of the old ways of doing things and the new ways of doing things? And Harry, I think I'm going to come to you first, because in some of our previous discussions, you had some interesting thoughts on this.
Sure. Well, I'm not sure it's a case of the old and the new. I think we're somewhere in the middle of all of that. We all know that TV viewing has changed dramatically over the last 5-10 years. It changed dramatically last year, and I think that goes for sort of most markets, countries around the world. But at the same time, a lot hasn't changed. So linear TV still dominates, certainly within the UK and many other markets, I'm sure, as well. But what's changed is that there is just so many more new ways of engaging with TV viewing, whether that's content, platforms, when you watch it, whether it's on demand or live, etc. So it has become hugely fragmented, and that has, of course, been powered as well by innovation and investment and lots of new entrants coming to the market. We have Mike here from Roku being one of them, and so consumers have so much choice now that's the starting point. But I think we'll probably get into elsewhere on the panel, what that means with regards to targeting, measurement, and that kind of thing. But they're all factors. But the point is, underneath all of this, it's become very, very fragmented and complex.
Absolutely. Marianne, any just to set the context for the session, what are some of your overarching thoughts?
Well, we've seen in the US, obviously, an acceleration of cord cutting that will continue and accelerate over the coming years. We're seeing tremendous uptick in streaming services. We're also seeing that there's a tolerance pain point threshold for how many subscriptions that people want. So platforms like Tubi and Zumo and Pluto are really gaining more in audience. We're even seeing Fox announcing that they're going to start doing originals for Tubi. So they see this as a growing platform and a growth accelerator. But when we look at SVOD services, I think we're going to even see some really interesting things. I think the NFL deal is indicative of how connected TV will become, or at least the NFL deals that were done for CBS and for NBC, that you're going to see some really interesting things happening on the advertising basis that will be reflective of changing audience patterns.
Perfect. And Mike, obviously Roku has been a leader, from the beginning. What are some of the things that you're seeing and hearing from your clients and your partners, and things change by the day. So
They do.
what's going on at Roku?
They do. So we definitely believe that in future all TV will be streamed, and therefore it follows all TV advertising will be streamed. And I think different markets are at different stages in that evolution. But actually, to your point, uh, the streaming is just the nature of the content getting to whatever screen the consumer is watching. And the interesting point here is I see it less as a kind of a big battle between these different types of methods of transportation, if you like, because the public service broadcasters in the UK stand to be able to do just as well in streaming as new entrants into streaming. And actually, they've got a trading heritage with the buying community, and they've got an incredible content library. And so I think streaming is this amazing world of opportunity, yes, for new entrants, but for the existing incumbents. And Roku as a platform, we see it across the piece. We see the SVOD players, we carry those in each of the markets. We see our own content, the Roku channel, which is live in the US, in the UK, and Canada. We work with the people like ITV, BBC, UK TV, Channel 4 in the UK, and they're across the world wherever we're present. And so I think the interesting part is that streaming is a genuinely global phenomenon. It's going to affect all of this audio-visual media consumption. And it's really now how we get into making this something that can be used, not just for consumers to be able to get this great content, but actually for advertising, which has done such a great job on TV screens, that big screen sight, sound, motion, how we make sure we keep all of that and add to it in the revolution that's ongoing.
Yeah, thank you for that. The thing that's so interesting to me is there is all of these, new ways to reach folks, and everyone's experimenting, and fragmentation is definitely a thing, and we're testing and learning. So let's say theoretically that the Drum launched a coffee brand, and we were coming to you, the experts, and saying, well, we know everyone's watching, that thing right now. Well, I'm not watching it now, but often. How do we reach them in an effective manner? So what are some of the things that you advise your clients or partners when they say, I want to get this out there. It's the best coffee there is. I'll throw it open to the group.
So one of the things, just to go back to your point about the evolution of markets, in some places like the US, for example, you could definitely, as a brand, now start with a streaming first mentality. How can I use a data-led approach to everything I'm about to do on that screen? In other places where maybe streaming penetration isn't as high, or the linear viewing share is larger, then really streaming is there to augment your kind of upfront buy or your big linear TV campaign. Because fundamentally, the truths that come away from Byron Sharp and beforehand in marketing around brand fame and the way that you build an audience and make that TV effective, they haven't changed. Just your ability to now use television further and further down the funnel as well, introduce more targeting, use more of those data assets you have to be able to drive even better performance from that big screen than we've seen beforehand. And the research from the likes of Binet and Fields has shown that long-term, the investments people make in television advertising are the best that you can go make. And now they're just getting better.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and I'll agree because Mike's speaking the truth here. Those principles still exist. I think where brands need to think about this a little bit more for their own sakes is, where are they coming from a brand? What stage are they at? Absolutely. You could go on demand only or addressable only when you've got a really clear idea of the audience that you're trying to hit, and you can do that at relatively low cost. So, we saw this a lot last year, is the rise of the D2C brands, kind of new startups or scale-ups that are able to make an impact on TV for the first time. Whereas several years ago, they wouldn't have been able to do that. It would have been the barrier to entry was too high on TV. So I'll say there's absolutely a strong use case there. And actually, there were more new brands spending on TV in the UK than stopped spending on TV in the UK last year. So despite it being a sort of a year of pandemic and economic recession, there was an increase in the number of brands spending on TV last year. So that's a really positive metric. But Mike's absolutely right as well. If you're already spending on linear TV, there is an opportunity from a sort of a total TV kind of reach and frequency perspective, and what are the potential savings that you can get from that? At what point does actually your addressable or your on-demand kind of incremental spend start saving you money? And I think that's a really interesting thing that brands are looking at right now, obviously as well, but they need the measurement in place to be able to do so. But that's now possible. So I think, yeah, it depends which way you're coming from and what stage you're in and what your budget is and creative and all of that, Ken. But the mug looks nice.
Thank you. Yeah,
And-
budget, budget's always in there somewhere, right?
And when you think about the overall universe of advertisers that have typically advertised on television, for the major networks, it's been about 200 advertisers, whereas in the digital universe, you can have 9 million advertisers. This is now a real opportunity to bring the high quality advertisers within that 9 million and transport them over to television, actually expand the universe of advertisers that traditional media companies are able to cater to, particularly as they continue to make investments in streaming services. I think this is going to ultimately be a win-win for these companies.
Yeah, so one of the things that I found interesting about these conversations is, so this is obviously something that needs to be navigated, right? This is a moment where there needs to be help. So when we were discussing this, like, aren't agencies supposed to be dead? Like, aren't agencies like, we don't even need them anymore, or consult? We don't need anybody to help. We've got it all figured out, right? But I mean, isn't this kind of the moment where agencies get and consultants get to shine about how to navigate this moment? And obviously, I'm looking at you, Harry.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's sort of the death of agencies gets called several times a year, probably, but more as provocation than anything else. And sometimes, that provocation is well justified. But there's no doubt about it. The agencies are specialized at this. They have the resource, they have the expertise. They've changed a lot over the years, right? You need to go back to, I think, your opening really around kind of how TV buying was and how TV buying is now. The worlds of digital and data and AI and machine learning are really coming into TV at quite a pace now, and it's changing dramatically. Agencies are so well placed to do that. They've got the contacts, as Mike said. They've got the long-term relationships. The bigger ones are able to invest in the technology needed to pull all of this together and make sense of it and be able to consistently target across this evolving space, to be able to provide unified measurement and reporting, which brands need really badly. Otherwise, you're just going to go to one point solution after another, and trying to make that sense of it, very, very difficult. So I think, yeah, I mean, agencies are really, really well placed to provide value and quality services to their clients.
I'd agree with Harry very much on this point, and I think that you touched on it, that the creative part is still part of that big agency brief. And I think we talk a lot about kind of streaming as maybe the pipes and media owners, but we're the transmitters essentially of the message. But actually, the message is incredibly important in all of this, and the agencies kind of have the high ground there. They understand the clients, they understand their strategies. They're the best place to come up with those communication strategies in the first instance. And secondly, and actually Harry's firm is living proof of this, you see a lot of the kind of the data smarts and the evolution of agencies play out in the innovative strategies that are now bringing kind of addressable to TV to market. There'll be conference after conference we'll hear of, like last year and again this year, all about the complexities, etc., of the workflow. And you look at Finecast as an organization that sits within certainly the preeminent media buying organization in the UK in Group M, and it's worked it out. It's worked out a way to be able to take hundreds of brands and be able to put them into connected television environments without kind of disrupting everything else that they're doing. They still have this as part of an integrated way that they communicate with consumers. And I think the more that we see that type of thinking come out, the more you'll actually find it comes from the agency holding companies and the leading independents, rather than from, let's say, the media owners or totally new entrants themselves.
Thanks, Mike. And it's, by the way, it's taken years. Finecast was only been around since 2017, but it was in development for 3 or 4 years before that. So to make it look simple is very, very difficult. I can vouch for that.
Well, clearly it isn't simple. So, let's what are some of the things that people have done wrong? What are some of the things that you see people, they're like, oh, let's just do this, let's get at some of the, sort of the nuance of what people can be doing better.
Shall I start? Happy to start. All I will say is, I came from a programmatic background before addressable TV, and there are some similarities, but there are also big differences. And with programmatic, it became really democratized, actually. I would say almost commodified, because in most markets, all you really needed to do was access, in its simplest form, access a demand-side platform, and to be able to strike deals with some media owners. Yes, you needed some demand behind you in order to sort of pay for the fees of the technologies, but it was a relatively simple process. The simplicity then unfortunately came with problems, rogue players, lack of transparency in the supply chain, problems around viewability, a lot of negative stuff, to be honest, which was really not representative of the actual value and the quality that most of the bigger operators and more professional outfits within programmatic were really delivering. But unfortunately, it got a bad name for itself quite early on. Now, I think TV needs to learn from all of this. It needs to make sure that it is clean, that there is independent verification and measurement and effectiveness, and that it is a positive experience for brands, just as it is a positive experience for viewers. So, and just to finish on that point, the two are completely linked. I don't think the kind of web browsing experience for viewers or users is often the most positive one, whereas I think TV is a much loved medium and is easily the most trusted advertising medium in the world today. So I think those are precious assets that must be protected.
What do you think, Marianne?
Well, I think I agree totally with what he is saying. I think it's just a moving world where I think a lot of people have to learn how to talk to one another better than they have in the past. I think there's been a lot of definitions that are coming on various sides. I mean, when you look at Lumascapes and other types of documents out there that are looking at the full workflow, there are a lot of conversations that need to go on, and there's also a lot of people with different interests and different hands in the pockets, and sometimes that makes for difficult challenges in making this all work cohesively. But I think there's a growing awareness amongst all the key players that they do have to collaborate. You look at various initiatives here in the United States where you have Project OR, you've got what Roku just did with Nielsen. You've got OpenAP. You've got a lot of different things that are going on that are going to move the needle. We also see in Europe different initiatives, whether or not it's D4 with ProSieben and RTL working together. There's a lot of more collaboration going on within the industry, and I think that's going to be critical for overcoming a lot of the obstacles that have gotten in the way.
Mike, can you tell us a little bit about the Nielsen, the news?
Certainly. So we have announced our intention to engage in a strategic alliance with Nielsen. It's still subject to all of the usual deal closing terms that we hope will happen in the second quarter. But if that goes ahead, it'll give us access to some of the DAI and ACR technology, that's dynamic ad insertion, its ability to put different ads into linear TV streams, essentially be able to do targeted advertising within a linear environment. And secondly, ACR, which is automated content recognition. And the value for that is something actually we started last year during the upfront season, this idea of being able to go to media buyers and actually de-risk the advertising buyer from them by genuinely only having them pay for what is incremental to their existing linear television spend, and quantify a lot more exactly who is reached and how and when, etc., by different advertising types. And I think, Ken, it talks to the point that you asked in that question, which is, what is the work that still has to be done? And I think the thing that TV has done very well over 50, 60 years is all the boring stuff in the background, the pipes, some of the rules to deal with little phenomena like ad clash. Like in the early days of connected television, you could watch an ad or an ad break in a connected TV environment and see 3 of the 4 ads not just be from the same advertiser, but actually the same creative, because there was was no real regulation around how that was working. And so things like all of these systems and ad podding and the ability to do clash management is something television has grown up on. CTV is getting to that point now, and that's where a lot of the work has to be done. And I think the second part of it is actually also about where the budgets have come from. And we've got to make it really easy for people, not just traditionally digital buyers, who are the people probably first into buying connected television, but also for the traditional TV buyers who are used to seeing some very dull stuff like reach and frequency metrics. We've got to get better at that independent measurement and making it really simple for people to Roku's ad slogan, to start streamer first. We've got to make it easy for that to happen.
But we see, even with projections going into this year's upfront, at least on the US side, there's an increasing, people are expecting traditional linear budgets to be flat or perhaps even declining, with more money being allocated to streaming services. That doesn't mean that NBC is losing money. They're going to be gaining it on the streaming side, as well as what they get on the linear side. So we're seeing a whole reallocation of budgets, and you know, where it turns out this year is going to be one phase, but goodness knows where we'll be next year. I think there's going to be a lot of things that will happen in the next 12 months that will continue the acceleration of spend towards streaming.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. That's what I was just thinking about. So what should we be excited about, you know, in the next 12 months? What are some things that we're going to see that are going to change and be more beneficial for, you know, when we get our coffee brand out there?
Yeah, I'm happy to start again, and it's sort of is building on actually the last question and what Marianne and Mike were saying as well. It's that, you know, if again from a sort of a UK vantage point, but it'll be the same in other markets. I'm sure it'll be just, you know, what products, consumer products and platforms are coming next. You know, we've had Roku, of course, and we've had Rakuten and Pluto. You know, it's, you know, there's such possibility there and potential from an advertiser potential to reach such new audience as well, which is something that we're crying out for as well, for many different reasons, and diversity being one as well. So we're really excited about that. I think, you know, we got the likes of Amazon, IMDb TV coming as well, and that's, you know, that'll have a big impact. This is all going to lead to, you know, a great experience for viewers, right? So much quality content, so, you know, so much investment going into programming. And this is really exciting for brands. And I think the other thing, Mike, you touched on there was linear addressable. You know, whether that's IP delivered or set-top box delivered as well. You know, we look at the world through a sort of a, you know, the future's digital, the future's addressable, not just streaming first. Streaming may well be the kind of the end destination for everything, but it might not be as well. You know, I think that linear addressable will be a thing for quite some time. You know, not everyone wants to watch exactly what they want to watch when they want it. Sometimes it's just an experience. The TV is on, and particularly for live events and news and that kind of thing. So that direction of travel, really valuable and exciting for advertisers. But then I think that's where the kind of audience data comes into it. What are the targeting capabilities and solutions that aren't yet there or aren't yet scaled or available right across the ecosystem? I think that's good. With, you know, first party data, just really getting started with first party data in this space, although, you know, clearly a common use case and capability within the digital programmatic space for years, but now starting to get a foothold into TV. So exciting, and just a brilliant opportunity for brands at this point.
I think that first party data point is key. Ken, to your question of what are we excited about, I think one of the things that has been a byproduct of what we've been through over the last 12 months is that some of the shift to the increasing digitization of the way we all live and buy things will be permanent. Not all of it. The high streets will be back. People will get out of their house when we possibly can do. But there'll be, McKinsey talked about the idea of almost like a decade leap forward in the penetration of e-commerce. In the UK, non-grocery retail went 40% of it was e-commerce in the last 12 months. That's a staggering growth. And a byproduct of that has really been the amount of relationships that have been formed between consumers and brands, and the amount of first-party data that is now being shared by consumers with more brands than ever has been beforehand. And that really gives those brands the opportunity to lean into this idea of addressability considerably more than they ever would have been able to before. And I think we're going to see that not just on the new platforms, but equally, if you look at the launch of Planet V from ITV in the UK, one of the things they've done early on is sign an agreement with InfoSum. And that's all about being able to bring first-party data in a privacy-safe manner to TV buying. And with that being normalized from the second largest TV sales house in the UK, that's an incredible change in the behavior of the way people will buy this media. And I think that's been one of the good things that's come out of the last awful 12 months, has been this kind of forcing factor to really reshape the way that these transactions are going to happen.
So at the end of this session, and we're coming to the close soon, and I'm going to ask all of our great panelists to offer one actionable insight that everybody watching at home or wherever you may be can be inspired by or learn from or do immediately. But I do have one last question, and because we've talked a lot about media and buying, where's creativity live in all this? Remember creativity?
So
Creativity reigns. It reigns.
All right, so go with it, Marianne.
Well, linear addressable streaming, it's going to allow for a lot of new types of formats that can engage audiences in a much more effective way. I think it's going to open up a whole new era of creativity, and maybe perhaps a 2020, we're going into the roaring 20s. God only knows what the Mad Men will be like in these roaring 20s in the 21st century. But I'm highly optimistic about what the various creative formats can be. I think television has to become much more engaging. And hopefully at some point in time in the US, we'll reduce the number of pharmaceutical commercials. But beyond that, I'm looking forward to some really interesting ads that I can engage with while I'm watching linear television.
Marianne, I think you're right. If we go back to the very birth of TV advertising, and Ken, not that you're old, correct me if I'm wrong here, I more mean by your tenure, the first TV ad to run in the States, I think, was basically a repurposed radio ad for Bullover, the watch company, saying America runs on Bullover time, but it was a static picture of a clock. And that was how people had taken this kind of jump. The new media, the lessons of the old had literally just been lifted and dropped onto the first. And I think we are so far beyond that in the evolution of what's now coming to connected television versus where we have been in TV beforehand. But I do think you will start to see more and more kind of creative shops working far closer with things like TV platforms, streaming platforms, in order to take advantage of the new possibilities that data brings with it. When you think about even the simple idea of Coke personalizing cans with people's names on, etc., that very simple creativity can now be done at massive scale on this huge, effective TV screen. And I think we're going to see a huge amount more of that, and the debate about the rise of connected TV advertising as a format will change to the future of connected TV as a creative medium. I think there was all the reports last week about the number of Grammys, etc., that were now being fought for, not Grammys, the TV awards that were being fought for by Netflixes, etc., of the world versus conventional houses. And I think in future you'll go to places like Cannes. Remember Cannes? And when we talk about creativity, it'll be campaigns that are actually driven by the data and addressability of the new media, but it'll be that's the canvas that allows that creativity to flourish.
Yeah, absolutely. TV is a great canvas for it. And I think the key term that we use is relevancy. That's the opportunity now, is to create advertising that is relevant to the viewer. And that is where addressability, data, etc., comes in. So it is that ability for creative to make a difference. We did some neuroscience research last year that showed that, from a behavioral and physiological point of view, relevant adverts were preferred to non-relevant adverts. They were more easily recalled and more accurately recalled. And actually, when in an A/B test against non-relevant advertising, had a more calming effect, i.e. your heart rate was lower, so your external focus was higher. So that it is a real thing. Relevance within creative makes a big difference. It's like the can of Coke version you just mentioned, but on TV, right? It's connecting with people for sure. So that, creative, essential, great opportunity.
Terrific. Okay, so now this is the point in time where I'm going to ask each of you to offer one bit of advice. I know there's a lot, we covered a lot of ground. We could have gone to a lot of different areas, but if there was one thing that people should be thinking about, what should it be? I'm gonna come to you first, Harry.
Well, you just finished on creative, so I'll probably say the combination of creative and data. But if I can slide one in, if that's not acceptable, it'll be the team that you've got. Make sure that if you know that you are either resourced with the right people or partnering with the right partner who really understands the space and is able to guide you accordingly.
Terrific. Marianne, what do you think? What's the bit of wisdom everybody needs?
I think transparency is going to be really important. I think one of the big issues that happened around digital was there was the lack of transparency. You've got really big budgets in television. People are going to want true accountability as to how things are being charged and how the whole flow works. So I think transparency would be primary on my list.
Mike, your actionable insight for everyone at home?
My last piece will be looking at the data you now hold as an organization, especially post-COVID, and the new D2C relationships, wherever possible, that have been set up. Look at how you can apply those to TV planning. The opportunities are so much more now than just conventional reach and frequency planning. You can now really look at your audience and the people who look like your audience and how you best go and reach them. And that will be a mix of conventional linear television, still an amazing asset, and it will include some of the newer forms of TV consumption and the way consumers are spending their entertainment time now.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. What a great panel, great topic. Certainly a lot of things to be excited about. I hope everybody enjoys the rest of the festival, and goodbye for now.